So I just wanted to give a quick demo on how you can take a WIC-1DSU-T1 and a VWIC-1MFT-T1, the multiflex trunk VWICs, and make serial interfaces out of them and use them in your labs. It's really easy to do, and the best part about it is that you don't need to get those big serial cables. So typically in lab environments, you'll see routers connected via WIC-1Ts or WIC-2Ts, and then you need those big smart serial cables. And they're really bulky and heavy. And as you can see here, I have just a tiny little neat T1 crossover cable that I made. It's really easy to make. Basically pins 1, 2, 4, and 5 are transmit and receive. So 1 and 2 is transmit, 4 and 5 is receive, 3 and then the rest of them are not used. So on one end, pins 1 and 2 go to 4 and 5, and then vice versa. So you get T1 crossover cable. So very easy to use. I'd like to show you guys how to configure that. So here I've got 2 routers in my lab. And so let's take a look at router 2. Oops, that's router 3. And so the command to take a look at your WIC cards is show diag. So let's do a show diag, and we're going to see everything about this router hardware-wise. And there we have the multiflex trunk. So that's the VWIC-1MFT-T1. There are a few different variants of this. There's a VWIC-2MFT-T1, and then there's the T1/E1. I'll explain the difference, and it basically is that you can either do T1 or E1. So as you know, T1 is actually a technology that's basically 24 phone lines at 64 kilobits. So that gives you about 1.544 megabits per second. E1 is actually 32, although I believe one of the channels is reserved for something. So we're going to go over here to router 3 now, and we're going to take a look. And this is the one that has the WIC-1DSU-T1. And this one is actually the WIC-1DSU-T1 V2. It's version 2 for the WIC-1DSU-T1. It only does T1. It has the built-in DSU. So if you're thinking of CSU DSU from your ICND 1 and 2, the DSU technology is built into here, so you don't need an ADTRAN. So typically you would have an ADTRAN plug into a serial interface, and an ADTRAN is basically the DSU. So it's very old technology, but these WIC cards actually have it built in. Same with the VWIC-1MFT-T1. The V2 is used for the ISRs. The original WIC-1DSU-T1s were in the 2600, 3600 series, 1700, the old generations. And once the ISRs came along, they had to rebuild it, so that's what the V2 is for. So now I'd like to show you how to set up the VWIC-1MFT-T1 to be a serial interface that we can put an IP address on and have connectivity between these 2 routers. So if this were the T1E1 card, there would be one extra step where we would actually have to specify by saying card type. So the command would be card type. Oops, again. So the command would be card type. And this is where you would put T1E1. Now, this isn't a recognized command because we don't have a T1E1 card. So what we need to do is controller. So first is config T, controller, T1, 000. Now, it's 000 because that is the slot that it's in. So the first 0 is the chassis, second 0 is slot, third 0 is port. Since it's only a 1-port T1 card, it's going to be 0. If it was 2-port, 0 would be port 1, and port 2 would be 1. If this were in WIC slot 1, as you can see, this one is in WIC slot 0, which is why this is 0. So if it was in WIC slot 1, that would be 0, 1. And if it was port 2 on WIC slot 1, it would be 0, 1, 1, etc. Okay, so now we need to bundle the 24 phone lines and put them into a channel group. So we're going to do channel group 0, almost like when you do a port channel. And now we specify time slots, and we say 1 through 24. Now, sometimes you need to enter clock source, so I'm just going to do it, clock source internal. And now you see up here, as soon as we bundled those links into that channel group, we got this serial interface. So the 0/0/0 corresponds with the WIC, and then :0 is actually our interface that we have. So now we just go exit, and we say interface serial 0/0/0. We say IP address, and we're going to say 10.0.0.1, and we're going to say 255.255.255.252. No shut. Okay, now we're going to go over to router 3, which has the WIC-1DSU-T1 V2. And if we do show IP interface brief, we see that it's just serial 0/0/0. Again, it's in slot 0. So we do config T interface serial 0/0/0. It's IP address 10.0.0.2, 255.255.255.252, and no shut. See that pop? Saw that on both sides. Now if I ping to 10.0.0.0.1, pings. So anyway, that's how you use a VWIC-1MFT-T1 and a WIC-1DSU-T1 V2 with a T1 crossover cable to use as serial interfaces to connect your routers in your lab. And you don't have to use the WIC-1T or the WIC-2T with those nasty, bulky serial cables. All right, we'll see you next time.